Uber passengers of Reddit that have given 1/5 stars on a ride. What happened to make it so bad? My Uber was new to the area and attempted to drive down a railroad track. I asked what he was doing and he said, "Oh, sorry." The driver didn't want to wait in traffic, so he drove up onto the sidewalk. We all screamed at him to get back on the road as he continued to drive down the sidewalk while pedestrians ran out of the way. He told us that it wasn't a sidewalk, it was an Uber lane. It was a miracle he didn't actually run anyone over. Pretty sure that's more of a call the police than a rate 1-star situation. When I got into the car, he immediately yelled in a stern voice, "State your account." I take Uber almost daily, and I know drivers like to ask for your name, but I was so taken aback by the aggressive yelling. As soon as I got into the car, I was met with the most awful smell I've ever experienced in my whole life. It was like something died in his car. I had to hold my breath throughout the 20-minute ride. Then, he drove me to the wrong place 2 times. By the second time, I just decided to walk to my destination because I was so vexed by the smell. Before I got out, after sitting in the car in silence, he yelled, "Rate 5 stars." He wouldn't unlock the door until I agreed. Yep, 1/5. I was taking an Uber home from the airport. The ride was perfect and he even insisted on dropping my baggage to the front door. Awesome. He then asked if he could use the restroom really quick and of course I obliged. He wasn't in there for more than 3 minutes, but when I went to wash my hands after, I found my bathroom destroyed. Crap was all over the toilet seat and just freaking everywhere. I really wish he had just taken more than a minute and chat like a normal human being, but the dude must have had a leaky butthole because there was crap on my walls too. A 1-star review was the bare minimum, I think. Kept talking me non-stop and was asking me sexual questions and kept trying to show me music videos on his phone while driving and drove me to the wrong location and ended up charging me more. Immediately gave him a 1-star. Had something similar happen in a cab. He kept pointing out girls walking on the street and asking if I'd do her. I am a girl, which made it a little extra weird. Uber driver was visibly drunk. Not blackout drunk, but it was obvious he was having a hard time staying in his lane. He kept veering over the yellow line, then would jerk the wheel the other way, nearly running us off the road a few times. He also had an open can of Bud Lights in his cup holder. I had him drop me off a few blocks from my actual destination because I didn't wanna die that night. Rated him 1 star and reported him. Not sure if anything came from it. She was simultaneously driving for Lyft and picked up another passenger completely out of our way. Then proceeded to brag about how she picked up some high school kids earlier and they had their destination set to the liquor store where she bought them liquor. Reminds of when I was on Oahu and one night I was drunk as crap and needed to catch an Uber back to the Airbnb. So I summoned the Uber and I'm waiting on the street corner and it's like 4 AM and it's showing the car coming right for me, but all I see is a taxi. The taxi driver was moonlighting as an Uber driver in his taxi. I was so confused the next day and had to piece it all together. She had 3 kids with her, one in the front, probably 14. A preteen in the back and a toddler, no older than 3, also in the back with no car seat. She was also driving erratically and reeked of weed. That seems like something you call the cops for, not just give them 1 star. They just never came. I waited 20 minutes and the car drove around in circles nowhere near my location. I eventually just cancelled, but when I did my score dropped. I went from a 5.00 to like a 4.9 or something. So she must have rated me. Then it gave me the option to rate her, so I gave her a 1/5. I don't know if it was a glitch or what, but now I can never recover my perfect score. Hate drivers that do this. Don't cancel next time, just use a different rideshare. That way they're forced to cancel and their rating is affected. He refused to acknowledge my presence and kept asking my husband if he thought it was fine that he, the driver, wanted to take a second wife because he believed men should be happy. My husband was not about that at all and said that if he wanted a second wife, she deserved a second husband, and the driver flipped out and told us that men deserve more than women and that she should be fulfilled by taking care of his children. It was incredibly surreal, uncomfortable and demeaning. So yeah, a big complaint was filed with Lyft. Whoa, what a weirdo. I was at the DC Zoo and needed to get the metro and had foolishly decided I didn't need my cane, so didn't want to walk back. The driver picked me up and tried to convince me to just get a ride to Union Station instead of the nearest red line. When I declined, he pulled over and cancelled the ride, reporting me as drunk and abusive. The DC Zoo to Red Line walk is a haul. I always forget just how far it is, especially after a day of wandering the zoo. Immediately when I got in the car, I was hit by an incense smell that was so strong it gave me an instant headache. She spent the whole ride trying to get me to join her essential oil downline in a well-known oil MLM. I declined politely and then firmly. I thought. We got to my destination and my head was pounding. She stopped and locked the doors. She told me that she wasn't going to let me out until I gave her my email address. I kind of chuckled and unlocked my door, and she immediately locked it again. Then she pressed child lock so that when I tried to open the door it didn't budge. I was shocked and scared, and she repeated that I had to give her my email address and handed me a notepad and pen. I made one up and dashed out of there. Immediately reported her. A couple of weeks later she somehow found me on Facebook and sent a friend request. Needless to say, I blocked her. I would have started filming everything in that case and sent it to Uber. If she took my phone, just punch her in the face. Freaking kidnapper. The guy fell asleep at the wheel and rear-ended a car in front of us. Then tried to flee, then left me at the side of the freeway at Fruitvale in Oakland. In the end I got a $500 credit from Uber. I was on a work trip in another city, riding into my first shift at around 5 AM. We were having a casual conversation and he asked whether I had a boyfriend. I said yes. As we were pulling into the empty parking lot, no one else was there yet, and I was trying to figure out which of the buildings I was supposed to be in. He asked if I would go get a coffee with him instead. I said no, and told him I thought it was the building straight ahead, but he turned the other way and started circling the parking lot. He said something about no one else being there yet, so I should just get coffee with him. And I said no again and asked him to just stop and let me out and I would find my way by foot. He let me out but then pulled into a parking spot and lingered there until sometime after I found my way in. That's creepy. He is not supposed to try to pick up his passengers. My 1-star ride was actually my first Uber ride. Was at a meeting out of town and decided to take an Uber a couple miles down the road to visit an exhibit during the lunch break. I was excited to see what Uber was all about, so I watched in the app the whole time as my driver drove away from my location instead of towards it. He finally called me and asked where I was, which was weird because I could clearly see where he was in the app. I told him the building where the meeting was and he was familiar with it, so we hung up. He made it to my location shortly after and the ride to the exhibit was pretty uneventful, but after he dropped me off I quickly found that the exhibit was closed on Mondays. No biggie, I'll just Uber back to the meeting. Not so easy because the driver forgot to end the trip and I couldn't call a new Uber because it said I was already on a trip. I had the driver's number, so I called him to end the trip, but he didn't answer. I left a message and set out to call Uber customer service to see if they could end the trip. Good luck trying to get a real person on the line, so I ended up walking back to the meeting. Finally got a call back from the driver after I made it back and he explained that he went to lunch after dropping me and left his phone in his car. He ended the ride but didn't report the issue and I was charged $30 for a 2-mile ride. BC the meter was running while he ate his lunch. I started the process of trying to get the ride fees back but can't remember if it was ever resolved. Took an Uber from my house to the airport for a work trip. Flight was at 10 AM. Picked me up at 7:30. Got a call from my boss on the way in. Driver screamed at me to hang up because he couldn't hear his podcast on his headphones. My boss, who heard the insane rant, told the entire team to switch to Lyft or taxis after that. He hit a cyclist who was taking home a pizza slice, didn't help him up, didn't buy him a new pizza slice. He also ran a bunch of red lights and asked for 5 stars at the end. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. Being one of my first Uber rides, I mistakenly sat on the front instead of the back. While he was taking me home, I'm OF. He started talking to me and randomly threw in there that he could give me his phone number to make him my regular driver, and then proceeded to say he was kidding and placed his hand on my leg. I was wearing shorts. I felt extremely uncomfortable and unsafe because he dropped me home. I immediately reported him to Uber and they actually called me to have a better sense of what happened. They never told me exactly what they did, but they did say they took appropriate action, so who knows. That's freaking scary. He drove the wrong way down a busy downtown 4-lane street on a Friday evening, all while telling us he just came from the local comedy club, which I happen to know has a 2-drink minimum on Fridays. I was terrified. She was texting and driving, yelled frick as she almost hit the curb while entering the interstate, and she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. We were stoned and terrified the whole time. Sounds fun. My Uber picked up someone else instead of me. When I called him to tell him that wasn't me, he put the passenger on the phone and kept driving to the destination. I had to cancel it and I think he dropped the passenger off at some random spot in town. Uber wouldn't refund my ride either. And that's where credit card disputes come into play. Also had an old Indian woman come pick me up outside of a hotel and watched her circle me 10 times while I waved at her in the middle of the street. We even made eye contact several times, but she just kept on passing me. When she finally pulled up to me, she almost hit me. I think she may have been at least partially blind. Then she did 20 under the speed limit the whole way there, lol. 1/5. JFC, call the cops next time. Rode in the front due to number of passengers. She shifted into P every time we were stopped at a light, then proceeded to tell us about her abusive exes and about how now she carries a loaded handgun in her purse, which was by my feet, because if she ever runs into that last ex, she's gonna shoot him. With regards to carrying a firearm, it goes on your person or locked in the safe. Off-body carry is a fantastic way to have your gun stolen, have an accidental discharge, or have it used against you. My sister gave an Uber driver 1/5. He did not understand a word of English, and apparently could not read English either, as he disregarded nearly every street sign, including no left, which she yelled at him for as he was about to make a left on no left across a very busy intersection. He also attempted to back up when he missed a street. She yelled at him for that one too, given it was on a busy street. She immediately rated him 1/5. She contacted them and told them that the man should not be driving for them. He is a very unsafe driver. They told her they would unpair her with him. Great. Someone else will get killed, I'm sure. He had a lot of stuff in the back and made me ride in the front with him. I hate riding in the front with Uber drivers, so I told him I'll just get another Uber, and he persisted for me to ride with him. I was already late to a dinner with my family, so I got in, and it was more uncomfortable because he asked a lot of personal questions like where I worked and what my shifts were. Once I got out, I immediately gave him 1 star and would have given him some negative stars as well if I could. My last Uber didn't say a word to me. 5/5. I was riding with a bag of specialty groceries, and the driver asked what I had bought. I was happy to make idle chit chat, so I answered truthfully. I was going to make a goat curry. Over the next 10 minutes, he monologued about how much he loved goat curry, and how you just can't get a good one in this town, and he needed to marry a wife who made a good goat curry, and he'd never met a woman who even liked goat before. And my curry must be recurry, 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 must be. I gave him a fake number and scrambled out of the back seat. Never have I felt more grateful that I was being dropped off at the subway station, and not in front of my apartment. A good goat curry is rare and delicious, but I agree his approach was inappropriate as a means to goat curry and marriage. Lyft, got pulled over for speeding and no seatbelt. Proceeded to then say he's gotten 4 seatbelt tickets and won't ever wear one. Also had a beat to crap car, not sure how it was Lyft approved. Used one car to get approved, drives a completely different car to do the actual rides. I'm pretty sure Uber doesn't add any hardware to the car, so this should be easy enough to do. He was running Lyft and Uber at the same time. I had to make it to work, and halfway through he started a ride in the other app and started going the wrong direction. What? Bro, take me to my destination please. While normal to run both if a bit frowned upon, they should never accept another ride while you are in the car. I do not understand why some drivers cannot figure this out. I had a guy pick me up with his car smelling like He tried to convince me to take his number and he would drive me around without the Uber app. Also tried to make me sit up front and gave me really weird compliments. The driver didn't take me to my location, had a messy car, smelled really bad, spent the whole time talking on the phone driving one-handed, didn't follow my directions. I had him pull over so I could get a different driver. This Uber driver was extremely curious about my life. He asked me if I was partying or drunk. He asked me if I lived by myself and new in town, and he started talking about how he liked Indian women. It was very uncomfortable. That night I slept with a hammer under my pillow. It was so scary. He asked if he could take me out sometime. I told him I wasn't interested. Then he started blaring his music. Luckily, I was only a couple minutes from my destination. Asked me if I liked sea within the first few minutes, then proceeded to tell me about how much he loved it, including a story about when he'd once done crack and tried to throw himself out of a window because he felt so depressed afterward. Then tried to take my number. She wouldn't shut up for 2 seconds and just droned on and on about her life and things I really didn't care about, only to get angry when I stopped paying attention. Her car was a mess. The back seats were covered in trash. I could barely breathe. It was a pigsty. I had to shove a trash can worth of empty bottles and cans just to sit. She had a little baby in the car who screamed the whole way and wasn't even in a car seat. Nope. This kid was just in the front, buckled into the seat without any precautions. When I mentioned that I have dogs to feed, she called dogs flea-ridden retards and then went on and on about why her cats were better. Proceeded to brake check people multiple times and then got pee when I told her to stop because I had an upset stomach. Went on a huge tirade of why LGBTQ people are the Antichrist and will bring about the end of society. When I mentioned I have a boyfriend, she just said the same things, but louder. Picked apart everything I was wearing, calling me trashy and lazy for still being in pajamas. I legitimately had no clothes despite that. Demanded extra payment after the ride, despite me tipping her 10%. Negatively reviewed me and made my score drop to a 4.6. Yep, 1/5. I'm never riding with you ever again. I don't even know your name, and I'm glad I didn't. I despised your car, your attitude, and your complete lack of care for your own child. Please tell me you reported her giving every detail you just gave us. I was running late for my flight. Driver didn't realize that he couldn't drop me off at the airport because he didn't have a special permit for that. Instead of telling me to find another Uber, he drove around the corner and busts waits for me to do something until I let myself out. I was still charged the cancellation fee and I ended up having to call 3 Ubers. If my flight wasn't delayed by 10 minutes, I would have missed it. Generally you need a permit to do pickups at the airport, not a drop off. He was an idiot for not knowing that. Plus no one is going to know if he's an Uber just by dropping off someone at the curb. Know what? No reverse card. I used to drive for Uber. I once starred a passenger because he wanted me to end the trip early, then drive him the rest of the way to save him money. Because come on bro. I once starred a passenger because he booked a regular Uber for seat belts, despite having a group of 8 people, because an Uber XL costs like $1 more. I once starred an old drunk lady because she would not stay in her seat and off my head. Yes, Ethel, my head is shaved. And it is hella sexy, but we are on the freeway. Sit the frick down. I once starred a dude who changed his destination 6 times in one trip and made me change it on his phone for him. I once starred a pair of freshman chicks who were mad that I wouldn't let them light a joint in my car. You're not that cute, Liz and Elizabeth. I once starred every single drunk mother who got pizza grease, falafel bits, or fried chicken crumbs in my car. I have to clean that, you little shoots. Said get in, B as I was walking up to the car. Then when I got in the back he started mouthing off to the guy beside him at a red light. Told him he's fricked and gave him 1 star. TLDR. Frick Uber with a rusty spoon. Also sorry for the mobile formatting. Last week man. My car's in the shop so I've been Ubering to work. I book the Uber to work and schedule a stop on the way. Gas station. Guy shows up. Doesn't speak much English but I'm not feeling too chatty so no prob. So the ride is normal. He pulls into the gas station. I say thanks. Be right back and hop out. buy some cigarettes and a coffee, head back outside. No more Uber. Right about this time I realize I left my work clothes, work shoes, and a bunch of other crap I desperately need in that car. Deep breaths. I check the app. It still says I'm halfway through the trip. Wait, now it's glitching out and shows a car where it picked me up. Wait, now it's saying the trip is over. Please rate your ride. But wait, it gets better. The app won't let me call the driver. I can only leave a voicemail message. So now I am calling my wife at her work to come pick me up, drive me home, and get my backup pile of work crap. Around this time the lovely Uber driver calls me back. He's a little peeved at me for leaving crap in his car. At least I think he is. We can barely break through the language barrier enough to figure out how to get me my stuff back. He finally gets across the message that he's coming to my apartment now. He'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm now already an hour late to work. But frick it, let's just get this resolved. 1 freaking hour later he shows up, glares at me for troubling him so much, and physically backs into me before pulling away. I was behind the car when he reversed to turn around. I stumbled a bit. Whatever, it's fine. I kinda thought I was over this crap and now I am worked up again. Sorry that turned into an essay. Whoa. Nothing. She was great. We hadn't used Uber in years and accidentally hit 1 star instead of 5. We thought we'd get a chance to correct it, but nope. Already locked in. We felt terrible. Gave a nice tip and called customer support to try and fix it, but were told they don't allow reviews to be changed for any reason. Fortunately the lady had a ton of reviews and a 4.9 AVG, so we probably didn't bring it down too much. Was going across the Bay Bridge at 1 AM and I notice the driver's head keeps drooping down throughout the trip. We're about halfway across the bridge heading to the East Bay and his head droops down and he swerves across 2 lanes to the right abruptly. I yell at him, he wakes back up and acts as if nothing happened. Saw my life flash. Reported that guy. 2 stories YAY. First one. My mom and I were on our way back from my dentist appointment and we ordered one. However, the place is like a maze, so it took him a long time to find us. But my mom was talking to him on the phone, so whatever. So he finds us and we get in. Normal ride. Then we get to our house and after 10 minutes my mom got the cancelled ride. What was normally a $10 ride was a $30-40 ride. My mom got a refund and gave 1 star. Next one. For my birthday we were going out and decided to get a ride. This old man picks us up. Normal ride up until we get to a turn that he should take. But he doesn't because the app tells him something different than my mom and she doesn't say anything fast enough by the time. My mom casually mentions how it'll be a couple bucks over what it normally costs. The dude tries to argue and then out of nowhere he starts yelling at my mom, who's kept a calm voice and literally wouldn't let us out until we got there and was just a general butt. Once again 1 star. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.